All right, so last time we talked about the lead arm and maybe a better understanding on how some elbow movement or some wrist movement can really affect the club face through impact. So today let's talk about a little more of the trail arm action and what some of these things do. I think this one's a little more of a conceptual understanding piece, more so than a drill specifically. Everybody has such a different feel for how this has to happen, and the whole idea of feel real and how different those are in the golf swing. So rather than just giving you an oversimplified drill, I really want you to think maybe more about how your arm specifically should move, and probably even more so, the direction that it has to feel like it moves for you. So one of the big things that I see with players is everybody comes in steep, maybe even over the top, but definitely steep on the downswing. And sometimes this is an understanding of how the arms should move. We always talk about lower body should start the downswing, initiate the downswing with rotation, and that's great. But if we are not using our arms effectively, this club kind of gets stuck up in no man's land. What I mean by that is this. If I make a really good backswing, and then I start my downswing with my lower body, and I'm not intentionally moving my shoulders or my arms at all, but as soon as my hip starts to move, especially if we lack a lot of this stretch in our abs and our core, when my hip goes, it makes common sense that my shoulders are going to start to go as well. Well, if my hips start to go and then my shoulders start to move and I haven't done anything with my arms, you're going to see my hands start to go this way. Well, if my hands start to go this way, that club is also going to go this way. That creates that over-the-top concern that a lot of people have. So, from the top, we need a lowering element. Shallow the golf club, lower the hands, drop the hands. These are all things that people talk about. Sometimes it's even to the idea of, we give people the idea of something like shaking hands with the target. The old Ben Hogan idea of skip a stone. Those talk more about the extension of the trail arm through impact. Also good information. But how do we tie it all together? I use an oversimplified drill that I call bend, straighten. So in the backswing, the trail arm has to bend. Everybody bends their trail arm. The amount that you do this, where it bends to, that's different for every player as well. If you bend it, you have to straighten it. And I think this is where people tend to get stuck. A lot of people bend this arm, and then we just start to rotate, or we start to swing our arms down towards the golf ball. If I make a backswing and I've bent my arm, and I start to swing my arms down towards the ball, with any amount of rotation, you're going to see that club starts to get steeper, and it's going to work more over the top. If I make a backswing and I have bent this trail arm, and now I straighten this arm, I'm not doing this to the wrist, so I don't have to cast it, I'm not flipping it, we don't have to scoop, but if I am bending my arm and then I straighten this trail arm, this is going to allow me, as I've made my backswing, as I bend it, it's going to lower this club to the ground, and then rotation is going to bring this club through impact. If you put that lowering phase together with the rotation of your body towards the target, you should notice that this club really starts to come down the plane very nicely. When we talk about the plane, clubs work on an incline angle around our body. It makes a big circle on a tilt. So, oversimplification, bend, straighten. For most people, and here's the caveat that most people get stuck with, for most people, that straightening action needs to happen significantly further behind you than most people are comfortable with. So just to give you an idea, there's a golf ball here on the ground that I'm attempting to hit. The straightening phase or the lowering phase that I am trying to create, this is about 2 feet behind my body, and it's about 3 feet to the right of my body. So I am going to have to feel like I make a backswing, and I am straightening this arm so that that club is working down in this direction. And we need to do it that way because that gets it back in front of my body. You're going to notice as I'm doing this, my body hasn't turned to the target yet. So if I make a backswing, my body is fully rotated, and I now then lower. Now my hands are back in front of my belly button, the club is lower to the ground, and as I rotate my body to the target, this club comes beautifully to the impact zone. That lowering phase has to happen very early and very quickly because the body rotation also happens quickly. And if you're trying to hit the golf ball harder, we are going to be turning the body even faster. Any delay in lowering these arms is going to cause this club to go over the top, steep, then you're going to have to save. A lot of times early extension or the arms kind of throwing the club down to the ground is an athletic response to help get the club to the golf ball when you've run out of time and the club's in a bad spot. So from the top, backswing, lower by straightening. So bend it, straighten it. That is literally the only role of the right arm in the backswing. If we can bend it and then straighten it back down to the lower position and then rotate, that club comes through beautifully. Again, this is an oversimplification of very complex movements that are happening at the joint level, but most of what I see people having trouble with is once they've bent this arm in the backswing, the straightening component doesn't happen nearly soon enough, and it doesn't happen in a direction that feels like it's actually lowing behind you, which is what we really, really need to focus on. So if there's one thing that I can give you that's going to help the trail arm and help you hit with less steep angle of attack, it should also help your club face square up a little bit. It's going to help your path work more in to out. Pay a lot of attention to this right arm and how it bends and straightens through the backswing and the downswing. Hope it helps. Take care.